Hello, YouTube. It's me again. I wanted to come on here and say something that I have been desperately thinking about, which is time travel. At least in media and video games and books, time travel. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And my two main reference points for the video today will be um, Avengers and Dragon Ball, because those are the two instances that really set me off here. That I'm just thinking about this. So I wanted to think. So the idea is, as a kid, you always think that time travel is well, you go back in time. You start from the point you're in now, and you go back in time. But recently, well, not even recently. At least ever since Avengers Doomsday. No, not Doomsday. Endgame or Infinity War. Whichever one of those came out, where they actually do go back in time. They talk, War Machine talks about why can't they just go back in time and kill baby Thanos? Um, and then just be done with the whole thing. And the Hulk, and I think somebody else, the Hulk disproves them, and I'm like, that's really not how time works. Because what you affect in the past there won't actually affect what you have here in the future. And at the time, that sounded really, smart. But the more and more I continue to think about these things, the more it's like I'm thinking about them, and they're just that doesn't seem right. The essence of time travel is moving from point A to point B. Going like, literally, you're here in point A, and you're going back in time to point B. So when they say, "Why can't we just go back in time?" and they say that won't work, that just doesn't sound proper to me. But what it does sound like is universe or like universe jumping, or like going into the multiverse. If that makes sense. I've drawn this expert diagram here. This is the future. This is the present, and this is the past. And this is how it's how it's explained in Dragon Ball and Avengers. Whichever one of the Avengers it is the idea is that if you go from the present that you're in right now back to the past, and whatever you change back here won't affect the timeline in the future for some reason. Maybe I haven't watched Avengers: Infinity War in a long time. Probably since it first came out or thereabouts. So it's not exactly fresh off my memory. But what is fresh off my memory is Dragon Ball, when Trunks goes back in time to warn Goku about the androids. It's much later after Goku falls sick, and they have to take him to Master Roshi's house. Trunks is there, and he's asked why couldn't, or he's asked if he could just go back in time, or if he kills the androids here in this time, and then won't it affect the future? And he says no, it won't, because that's a different timeline. Isn't that now? I'm willing to be wrong here. I would like to be wrong. I would like to hear other people's thoughts. Isn't that just universe hopping? Or isn't that just traveling, instead of traveling from point 1 to point 2, or from, literally back in time, the same timeline, the same stream, you're jumping back in time in a different timeline, You're literally they move back in time in a completely different timeline. Not their same one, not their continual stream of time. I haven't watched Loki, so I'm not exactly certain. That would probably explain a lot of it. So I'm not exactly certain what. Maybe if they've explained it any better. But isn't what they speak about in Avengers Endgame and in Dragon Ball, isn't that just considered universe hopping? To go from point A to point B in a different timeline that is not your own. And one of the reasons I say that is because in Doctor Strange, when he goes and fights Dormammu, he does that whole, in the very end, he does like the whole, like the loop thing around his arm and stuff, and he can go, every time he dies, it resets him. He's moving back in time, but he's not jumping to alternate universes. And what he's doing there has an effect, will have an effect later on to the rest of Earth and the multiverse, whatever. Because when he's fighting Dormammu, but what he does there does not directly affect the past or future. He's going back in time, even if it's for a few seconds, in the same timeline, rather than go back in time in a different timeline to stop Dormammu completely. So that's, or even whenever he does it for the first time with the Eye of Agamotto, it's like, the apple is healed, but he's remained in the same timeline. So using that, it is possible in Marvel's universe to traverse time backwards through the same stream of time. Whereas what they talk about in Infinity Wars, which is still Marvel, by the way, and still some of the same characters, they can't go back in time. And what happens in the past there won't directly affect the future that their timeline is in, because it's two different timelines. Why wouldn't they go back in time in their timeline? So then it would affect the timeline that they're currently in, you know? Killing baby Thanos in their time stream would then would result in the death of Thanos in their timeline. Or if Trunks goes back in time and if Trunks goes back in time, which he does, and he warns them and he kills the androids, and then he comes back to the future, he's not going back in time in his dimension. He's almost going back in time in another multiverse, in a multiverse or in a universe that could have been if he was there. Does that make sense? Why do they always talk? Those are the two big things that are talking like that. Like, that's why he says Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit, because that's not how it works. But that is how it works. So long as you remain in the same time stream, instead of jumping back in time to a different universe. Or you could even just go back you could even just jump to another universe that was only so far along. Like if there was another universe out there that took place, or that had only ever reached the moment in time where they were fighting in New York, the first Avengers, but that was as far as that timeline ever got. That wouldn't be them traveling back in time. That would be them just going to another universe. Is that what they did? Or did they, because they didn't stay in their, line here. They didn't stay in their line. They jumped from here back to, in a different timeline, a different line, not the same one. And that's what they talk about. Oh, that's not how it works. And Trunks talks about that, and he says that's not how that works. But that is how that works, as long as you stay in your timeline. Or is it physically not possible? Well, it is possible in the Marvel Universe, because you see Doctor Strange doing it. And then, I don't know much about Wanda and what her powers are. I know that Wanda did the whole thing with the town, where she, froze them, or made them believe that they were stuck in one time period. That's not necessarily time traveling. That's more or less like holding parts of the time, or whatever, into the Multiverse of Madness. I don't remember much of that movie, because I wasn't watching all of it when I was playing. So maybe there was something in there, but she did a sort of time travel where she just froze, parts of it. Why do they keep saying that it is impossible to go back in time in your timeline when it is? Because, you go back in time, as long as you remain in your line, your line of string, your fabric of reality, whatever you want to call it, as long as you remain within your original line, instead of going to another universe that wouldn't have the same effect. Because those are two different things, When they talk about going back in time, it's just going back in time. Why do they say it's impossible? Why do they do that? Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I sound crazy? Like, in Samurai Jack, he gets flung into the future. So what he does out there has zero effect on his life because he's not there, and has zero effect on the past and he's kind of just, he doesn't need to train to kill Aku because he's already stronger than Aku. So that isn't what the show is about. He's just trying to get back. So it's not like him training to beat Aku makes him stronger than Aku already. He's just getting back there. So I can't really use that as a point of reference. But Dragon Ball and Avengers Doomsday both say basically that same thing, that what happens in the past won't affect your future. But it will, because you should still be in the same timeline, you know? I don't know if I'm making sense here. Let me know what you guys think. If I sound crazy, or if you even understand what I'm saying in the first place. Are they dimension hopping? Are they multiversing hopping? Because there's also the thing, and I wanted to say this now, in case it turns out to be something cool. In the third Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, in the 2018 version, when Gwen Stacy is flung back into time, or flung through the collider, and she meets up with Miles Morales, she's flung a week back in time, over the other Spider-Man, who come back the same instant, whereas she comes back a week ahead of time. Now, that has no correlation, nothing that I could find, anything there. I just wanted to say that I think that has something to do with the third one, before the third one comes out, so I can say it right. But that's something, and that's in the Marvel Universe, that's time traveling in a different multiverse. So what she does there won't have any effect on her realm, or her future, you know? That makes sense, because she's in a different universe. So that would be the only way to describe that time traveling wouldn't work. That would be the only way to describe that it would not work for the Avengers to go back and kill baby Thanos. Unless they were in a different timeline. Which they probably did. And unless I'm missing and just don't remember them talking about it like that, they probably did go back in time into a different universe. I don't remember. I know, though, that every time I hear that, that sounds wrong. Because Back to the Future is correct. As long as you stay within your line, you go back in time. I also heard something that the Doc was trying to kill Marty the entire, every Back in the Future movie. But I can't speak to that because I wasn't paying attention. So that was a theory. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, please inform me here. Am I going crazy when people say that? When they say stuff like that? Like, you're going from universe to universe? I'm gonna sit here and spin my wheels. Let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Or did they say something that I'm just not seeing here? Because it is possible that I just missed it. And if I did miss it, let me know. Yeah, I guess that's it for tonight. I'll see you later.